Hello humans! Dale Kingsmill back again for another Immortal Conquest sponsored mythology video. Immortal Conquest is a mobile strategy game that deals thematically with a lot of mythological elements. One of those elements being the different characters from mythology that are gyro cards within the game. And one of those gyro cards, the one we're talking about today, is Loki, the Norse god of mischief. Loki was the son of the ice giant Laufey and was basically the best friend of Thor, god of thunder. He was also a shapeshifter, which led to some interesting stories from mythology in which he becomes the father/mother of the great wolf Fenrir, the Midgard serpent Jörmungandr, as well as the eight-legged horse of Odin, Sleipnir. In fact, Loki is kind of the parent of most of the huge monsters from Norse mythology. He rides that line between being a good guy and a bad guy for most of it, until he seems to fall mostly to the bad side. See, Loki, in a mischief-seeking attempt, managed to orchestrate the death of the Norse god's favorite son, Balder. And the rest of the gods weren't too happy about it. In fact, one day they were all sitting together and having a big, huge feast and talking about how much they didn't like Loki, and they hadn't invited him. But as it goes with every story that starts this way, Loki found out about the feast and showed up unannounced. And he demanded a seat at that table, and he demanded a glass of ale. The god Bragi is the first to speak up, and he says that no, Loki can't sit down and eat with them, because the gods know who to invite to parties, and they didn't invite him. Let's bring in the sass, which, starting a sass battle with Loki, I mean, that just seems like a bad idea. And it was a bad idea. Loki ignores Bragi and turns to Odin and says, "Do you remember that time when you said that you would never drink ale somewhere that it wasn't offered to me first?" And so Odin sighed, and he told his son Vidor to stand up and get Loki a seat and some ale, which Loki gladly accepted, but he was far from finished. He called Bragi a coward and a bench ornament, as in he's only brave while he's sitting down. He slut-shamed like most of the Norse goddesses. He tells Odin that he's bad at picking good soldiers and that he rewards victory to the faint-hearted. Just so many insults flying everywhere. He brings up this one time Freya farted. He talks about how his son Fenrir bit off the hand of Tyr. He says Heimdall's just a loser who's gonna always be stuck being lookout for the gods. Loki doesn't stop until he has insulted every single one of the Norse gods, until finally the Lady Sif steps forward and tries to placate Loki by handing him a fancy-as crystal goblet full of a new bout of ale, and says that at least she alone is blameless. And then Loki insults her. The one god who wasn't present at the feast yet was Thor, who was running late. And it's at exactly the moment that Loki insults Thor's wife, Sif, that suddenly the mountains and the ground begin to shake, and everyone knows that Thor's coming. And when Thor does arrive, he does the Thor thing and threatens to kill Loki with his hammer, Mjolnir. Loki keeps up the verbal sparring and insults Thor a couple of times during this, but he also knows that Thor means business and will kill him with his hammer. So pretty quickly, Loki splits and goes and hides himself in disguise as a salmon in a distant waterfall. But eventually the Norse gods do track him down, they find him, catch him in a net, force him to transform back into his true self, at which point they turn one of his non-monster sons into a wolf, and they kill the other one and use his entrails to tie Loki to a rock, and then they hang a venomous serpent above him so that it drips venom onto his face until Ragnarok comes. Speaking of Ragnarok, actually, one of the cool things about Immortal Conquest is that you combine different gyro cards to get bonuses in the game. One of these bonuses is various bad guys who will come to fight the Norse gods during Ragnarok. So if you put together Hel, Fenrir, Jörmungandr, and Loki, you get yourself a bonus. That's one of my favorite things about this game, is that if you know something about mythology, you can mix and match different cards to see whether they're gonna give you a combination, rewarding that mythological knowledge that you got in your noggin. Big thank you once again to Immortal Conquest for sponsoring these videos. I hope that you've all enjoyed them. I know that I've had a lot of fun making them. Apart from that, I do believe that's it. I'm done, and I will see you some other time.